Navy out here doing the Lord's work, taking care of the Bama killers. The Armed Forces Bowl just means more.
Salute the DOD, baby.
Yes, you are now listening to the sounds of Sports Reports is Ordered. And of course, it's 2-5, your unorthodox statistician, the Aggie Daddy, in the building. And I'm not alone. I brought my boy with me, the one and only Even Killed, born in Texas, raised in VA, representing New Jerusalem. He wants all you historians out there to know that the first complete dinosaur skeleton was found in New Jersey in 1858.
Paleontology, son.
The Hadrosaurus. He is Mr. Logic. And do not bring feelings to this here fact fight. Like, review, subscribe, share, rate, do all the free things. And if you're doing that, that means that you're doing all the good things. Yes. So, Mr. Logical.
One and only.
You know what I heard?
Heard about some football.
I heard there's a war going on outside no man is safe from. You know what I'm saying? The NFL has declared war on the NBA. They said, you know what? I love what you did with Christmas. Now watch me work. What did you think?
Yeah, like I said, the NFL took Sunday away from Jesus and Christmas away from the NBA. That quick. I honestly didn't even think about the NBA Christmas games just because Netflix is right in my face. Like, boom, here's some NFL football. And then it was their two of their marquee players, not just the marquee cities. And I think that's where the NBA is kind of, I mean, that's where they're dropping the ball. Honestly, it's very similar to politics. They say the Democrats have kind of forgotten like the middle America. Like, yo, everybody is part of this. So all the fans want to participate in games and days and be highlighted and have their regions, represented. That's why college football is huge. It's not a lot of professional teams in Oklahoma, but when the Sooners are good, it's Boomer Sooner. You see it everywhere. The rivalry game between them and Texas. Kansas, when Kansas went on that streak this season, knocking off those teams. So that middle America, the NBA just focuses so much on the big markets that they just kind of alienate the smaller markets. And that's where your America is. Yeah, it's a lot of people in the big markets. It's a lot of people in New York City. There's a lot of people in Boston. There's a lot of people who live in Philly. And it's very popular. But there's other basketball teams. So every year, every Christmas is like you get your standard 8 cities. You get LA, and now Golden State's good. You get that San Francisco region. Your 2 teams you threw in essentially were Dallas and Minnesota because Dallas made the run to the finals last year, and they have Luka. And then Ant's become a bit of a personality, and Minnesota had a good run. But why can't Charlotte versus Orlando be a Christmas Day game? Why is that never even a thought? Because every year that they've been doing it, it's only these players. And I get a lot of these guys have shoe deals, and they get to do their Christmas shoes and the Grinch colors and everything else. And I understand like that level of marketing, but you can do that all week with them. It could be Christmas week and all of these stars can debut their shoes and it can be highlighted and you can auction them off to charity. Very similar to what the NFL does was My Cleat, My Cause. It's just, I think the NFL they do a better job of selling the players. They don't take care of them better as far as financially. NBA takes care of their players better financially, but as far as like showcasing multiple teams, multiple combinations like the young guns, Bryce Young versus CJ Stroud, that will be a primetime game because they're selling you these two players,
Yeah,
not just those two
they
seniors.
threw Caleb Williams against CJ Stroud early this year on Sunday night.
Yeah.
They had a Bears Carolina game on the schedule just because. The NFL is smarter in that way because, to your point, we always talk about, you and I, we always talk about, oh, the league is still holding on to LeBron, the league's still holding on to Steph, still holding on to KD. And then Christmas came and it's like, that's why, but at the same time, to your point, the reason that they don't have Orlando and Charlotte on Christmas is because you would have people like Stephen A. Smith saying, who wants to watch Orlando and Charlotte on Christmas? Shitting on the product.
Yo, me and you've talked about this for years, and I remember an episode of The Odd Couple with Chris Broussard and Rob Parker, and they kind of alluded to this as well. He asked Rob, he's like, Rob, do you think it's kind of our fault for just kind of summing up everybody's career with this championship expectation and the ring count? Because before the ring count, Charles Barkley was a great player. Karl Malone, great player, finished his career second all time in points, and was just a brick house of a man in his entire career. You had guys like Craig Elo, Mark Price. You had so many different guys that were just, that were playing great roles in the NBA. And then you had some guys who were superstars like that. And Jordan won most of the championships. Olajuwon won a couple. The Bad Boy Pistons got a couple. The Lakers got a handful. So for like a 15-year span, only like 4 teams won chips. But everyone was highlighted. Barkley had a shoe deal. He was on TV all the time.
Grandmama.
In the interview. Grandmama. Like it was the total package of what the NBA was offering you was on full display. Now they give you about 25% of what they really have.
Yeah.
And then they rely on that. And then when these guys need to sit out, naturally, it's like, listen, you got to be playing 82 games and so they play about 3 games a week on average with practice and travel. Granted, they're traveling on nice chartered jets, but it's still work. They still got to get from point A to point B and play a physically demanding game. So when they need to sit out, the NBA gets mad. It's like, well, put some other faces on the marquee, and you wouldn't need LeBron on Tuesday and Thursday and Saturday every week to be your marquee matchup.
And the NFL just simply said, I see your LeBron, I see your Steph, I see your KD, and I'm going to raise you a Mahomes, a Lamar, you know what I'm saying, a Pittsburgh Steeler. And, oh, by the way, you want to highlight the young talent, Anthony Edwards? Here's CJ Stroud for you. And granted, the games weren't even good. But at the end of the day, the numbers are in. And those 2 NFL games, by a margin of 17.6 million viewers more than what the NBA games had. And then the NFL said, oh, and we're not done yet. Here's a little Beyonce too. How you going to compete with that?
And then we're going to give you what's going on, Matt? Once again in the building, way back, 52nd Fire to Wing. Crazy life stories back then, but we'll keep that secret until I write my book. But then last night you had Seattle versus Chicago. 6-3, 13 punts. People watched that whole game. The fans were in the stands, tears in their eyes, but it was 6-3, and it was like, this is your standalone game. And we're going to talk about our NFL games. It's a lot of cool matchups this weekend. You got the NFC South matchup, Bryce Young and Baker Mayfield. That's not primetime Saturday. You got the Jets versus the Bills. Big New York State, New York City, Jersey. They're like, nah, we're giving you the Chargers in New England first. Then we're going to run it back with Denver and Cincinnati. And then we're going to get you Arizona and the Rams. Y'all going to watch all 3 all day Saturday.
And Denver and Cincinnati supposed to be windy. You know what I'm saying? Like
high 40s. Cold.
Yeah, so and that's where because the NFL, that's the difference right there. The NFL markets the sport. They market competition. They market worst to first. We have this draft, and like the team that finished last, like remember the NFC South. There was like a 4 or 5 year stretch where The last place team would win it the next year. Whereas in the NBA, for the most part, over the last, I'd say, well, hell, I'm 43, so I'd say over the last 30 years, we've come into every season knowing these are the top 2 or 3 teams
You
that
got
are going to
6 teams and maybe a surprise 7th team.
right. And then when you come to Christmas, you look at this as a moment to showcase. Like I brought up Detroit a couple of weeks ago. And I know nobody wants to watch the Pistons for real, but the reason that I brought up Detroit is because they won 14 games last season. They got 14 wins right now. You got Cade Cunningham, out here getting triple doubles, so on and so forth. And people like, I don't know who Cade Cunningham is. Well, you ain't going to know who he is if they don't present it. Like, we didn't know who Gonzaga was until Gonzaga beat somebody, and then they beat another team, and then it was like, oh, and then
they made their run through the tournament, but that was their showcase. It was like cool. And then ESPN back in the day, because I remember that was like when I was in high school, ESPN would play a lot of the smaller conference tournaments throughout the day because they would play their games all day long. So you were getting Gonzaga, you were getting Santa Clara and seeing Steve Nash. You were seeing those games leading up to the tournament.
Right.
But that raised the excitement to the tournament because it's like, hey, we're selling this. We're selling the David versus Goliath competition. In the NFL, a lot of it is all passing the guard. Drake May and Justin Herbert, the commentators are probably going to make so many comparisons to how they are physically. Drake May is a lot like Justin Herbert. So that makes you
comparing their rookie
years, size, experience levels in college, arm strength, coaching, whatever the case may be. Oh, when Justin Herbert had Anthony Lynn as a coach, 31 touchdowns. They brought in another coach, and they bring in Harbaugh, and it looks like they're making a good run. Give Drake May some time. So they're constantly bridging old players with younger players. You're going to look at Denver and Cincinnati. That's going to be Bo Nix, Joe Burrow. They were in college probably around the same time. Playoffs on the line. Can Cincinnati, right the ship and get back to the playoffs? Can this rookie lead his team that's paying another guy $38 million not to be here? So like the NFL is constantly connecting one coach to another coach, another player. It's constant references to where they went to school. They're always asking these guys, like, so, they're always making bets in the locker rooms. The guys have to wear so it's just this constant, deliberate connection that they're making between the players and the game. And even with the people, I don't like the penalties, and I don't like the, roughing the passer calls. I think the NFL referees have put themselves in position to be involved in the game just as much as the NBA players. But the NBA, those guys they're throwing people out for talking to them.
Right. And that's why, I sent you the comments that Kevin Durant made earlier. Quote, I feel like fans only want free agency and drama and only care about playoffs and finals and what that means for somebody's legacy. Then they get programmed to just think about that, which has made them not want to care about the regular season, unquote. And that's exactly it, because we were talking about a couple of weeks ago, the Bucks won the NBA Cup. And people were making these fake memes about Dame talking about how like he's an NBA champion now and all that kind of stuff like that.
Yeah.
And the reason that even exists is because that's the space that sports is in right now, or at least the NBA. Like, you don't hear it as much about the NFL. Like, we're not sitting around talking about, I don't know how Joe Burrow is going to be a great quarterback without a Super Bowl, or like, Lamar Jackson won his 2 MVPs and like he might get a little criticism, but Josh Allen doesn't get the, oh, hey, where's his Super Bowl at? Like, he's putting the team on the back. Where's his Super Bowl? This is just an NBA thing. And like baseball, like before last year, nobody was talking about when the hell is Shohei going to win a title. That wasn't Mike Trout. A lot of people that I've talked to consider Mike Trout to be a top 5 to top 10 baseball player of all time.
All time.
Mike Trout has never played in a playoff game.
Barry Bonds is considered the greatest baseball player of all time by a lot of people, and he never won a World Series.
Just played in one. And he killed it though. He killed that World Series that he was in.
He was bet like 560.
Yeah, and and that's the thing, is that when you look at the NBA, it's so individualized. So like when I was talking to people yesterday, it wasn't, oh, I can't wait for this Dallas Minnesota game. It was, oh man, like Aunt Luca coming on, and now Luca's hurt. He's out for a month. Now he's going to be ineligible to win MVP and all these things. So as I looked at the Lakers and the Warriors, Steph tried his damnedest, to be a Houdini until Wiggins let Austin Reeves go by him. And, but we did see good things on Christmas in the NBA because, like I said, the NFL games pretty much sucked. The Chiefs won by 19. Texas only put up 2 points.
Lamar was out there. Lamar was out there playing Madden in real life.
He was. But in the NBA, Wemby had 42 and 18. Only problem is his 9-foot ass couldn't grab the rebounds that they needed at the end of the game. Steph and LeBron, they went back and forth. Mikal Bridges put up 41 on Christmas, but people would have probably enjoyed it more if it was Jalen Brunson, because names. Maxey with 33 and 12 assists. Jason Tatum, 32, 15, and 4. So, like, there was great basketball to be seen.
It is the best basketball in the world. Like, people talk about this international game catching up. The league, there's individual players that come from international areas and backgrounds, and they come to the NBA, and they are elite of elite. But they were head and shoulders above everybody else in their previous leagues. Luka was dominating his league at 16.
Yeah.
So the world's not catching up.
Well, it's overstated
around the world, but like here in the NBA, this is the best basketball in the world you're gonna see. And I think analytics has kind of made the viewing of it back. Dominique Wilkins above the rim basketball, Jordan Duncan not shooting threes. That's what you want to see. Like, you gotta. Like I said, I know a few people in my life that I know personally that are over 6'5", 6'6". I don't know that many people who are like my close friends that are that tall. You have a whole league of people who can do amazing things at the rim, and you have some guy who went to MIT telling you, hey, if we shoot 47 threes and we go 33%, well, no, pump fake, get to the rim, put somebody on a poster. No one's wearing T-shirts of Jason Tatum shooting step back threes. Like put the things for like the slam dunk contest. All the NBA stars do the 3-point contest. Karl Anthony Towns is 7'15". He out there winning the 3-point contest. Meanwhile, you got guys from practice squads and G League coming in trying to save the dunk contest. It's like, that's what people came to see. That's supposed to be the marquee things. Like, nope, all the stars in the 3-point contest. Right. So I think they just marketed it badly. I think they're a victim of analytics. They're a victim of thinking that the math is more important than common sense. Because I don't want to see a game with 53 pointers.
So do you think that the NBA should revisit? Because I know, during after the COVID year, Lakers won the title. Then they had like the short ramp up for training camp. Season started on Christmas. Do you think the NBA should look back at that to where if the NFL's gonna, I guess, try to commandeer, or I guess they've already commandeered Christmas, where the NBA can go, but this is our opening night. Ring ceremonies, like, of course you got your big names, but it's the first time.
But your season would end in June still.
Mm-hmm.
So it'd be 6 months where football season never really ends because it goes from Super Bowl in February, off season, free agency, contracts, draft, training camp drama, holdouts, preseason football, college football, and then regular NFL football.
What it do, Mike?
And it starts, and NFL football starts as your year's transitioning. So your summer's over, or your summer vacations, kids are going back to school. And now when that happens, boom, now I have football. The NBA kind of coming in October when you are We're 6 or 7 games deep between college football and pros. It's tough. They just have to market their matchups more and do more Saturday afternoon games like they did back in the day. Those like I said,
Well, that's
right
the
after
thing. They
Soul
waited
Train.
until January to bring the Saturday night showcase on ABC. And it's kind of like, well, the NFL is obviously trying to compete with you. Maybe you need to try to compete with the NFL. And, because I mean, granted, right? You're starting from a negative position. Like the NFL is the big bully on the block.
And they're in full swing by the time your
Right.
season starts.
But they ain't going anywhere. But so you have nothing to lose by challenging them. Because the NBA is still good enough international wise that you don't have to worry about, like, they got the TV deals. So they're in a position right now where the league isn't going to fold because they're going up against an NFL time slot.
No, they are just going to find it's going to be tough when
yeah, they put up that 50 spot in the fourth quarter,
yeah,
like 50 to 25.
Crazy, but the thing
Memphis
about
put up
that,
155 like, the same night.
That's that kind of stuff. Like, that's a lot of points. People are like, oh, there's no defense. We like what we like, and we like points. We like stars. We like star power. But we don't need that star to be in Philly. We don't need that star to be in LA. We don't need that star to be in Miami. We need the star to be on TV, because I'm watching from wherever I live. So if I live in Indiana and the Pacers have a star, then the Pacers have a star. I'm watching them. But if you live in Kentucky and you want to watch the star from Minnesota, just put them on TV. It doesn't need to be, because this guy doesn't play in a big market. And because they make it seem like they tried everything for the small markets. Yeah,
but that's what I'm saying. Like when we first started talking about the season, that's what I was trying to say. Like, the Philadelphia 76ers have 27 national games when we know Joel Embiid is going to miss time, whether it's going to be intentional or not. And they still gave them 27 games for the fact that they play in Philadelphia.
And that's fine. Now you got a star in Maxey, a rising star. Put them on the TV circuit.
They need flex scheduling is what they need. Saying on these TNT games, like that.
Go to these places. Have them go sit on a panel with Chuck and Shaq. That way they can get the clips and they get the jokes out. Like, use these guys because they appreciate the branding. If Tyrese Maxey can go out there and go to his agent and negotiate a shoe deal and say, hey, I am one of the new faces of the NBA, and you can see him everywhere. Have him on, these talk shows, these morning shows, like Good Morning Philadelphia or like the Today Show. Like, put them out there to highlight things, and then have them talk about whatever cause they're doing in the community as the reason for being there. And then, like I said, with the NFL, my cause, my cleats. Do the same thing in the NBA. But the NBA, you have so many different players wearing so many different shoes, you can run it way longer, because it's just NBA basketball shoes are part of the culture. So now you could do my shoes, my dream, or my shoes, my hope, whatever you want to call it, and highlight these guys every single night for like a week. Every star, anyone who has a nonprofit, anyone who's associated with anything, let them talk about that for a whole week, maybe during the NFL's, like, the opening week. NFL does a lot of breast cancer and, like, the cancer, the crucial catch. Hop right into that. And then when November comes around and it's veterans, hop right into that.
Yeah.
Get the veterans uniforms, get the veteran shoes, the Army
NBA
shoes,
gotta learn.
Bring the Marines out, like, do the things. And then Christmas comes around, focus on, all right, cool. I need some of you stars to have Christmas shoes on December, the whole month, and then have a new one for Christmas Day. So you need 2 pairs.
Yeah, the NBA got to learn. The NBA has to learn what works for Kendrick Lamar doesn't work for you. Saying Kendrick drop albums and stuff when he want to, but it's anticipated. You go away and you alienate your fans because we're wondering where the hell you are. We're wondering, where, because you got guys like Anthony Edwards who still at least talks like those old school guys. Like he's like, these ain't my friends. Like I'm here to win championships. And Giannis is like, nah, I don't practice with these guys in the off season. And but the NBA has tried to course correct because we had the Malice in the Palace.
Palace, yeah.
So the NBA has tried to overcorrect and be like, no, we're trying to get rid of all emotion, all energy, all vibes.
They gotta check these refs too. Like, listen, you got guys out here playing at the apex of their emotion. If he says something to you, go to the coach.
Mm-hmm.
Like, you can't keep teching guys up because you tee up a guy who says, "Damn, man, call the fucking foul." Check. Like, everyone's gonna say that. You can just take up everybody because everyone says the exact same thing.
Especially when you see the stars, i.e. LeBron, i.e. when Tim Duncan was playing, all up in the refs' faces, doing all this demonstrative things, and they don't get texts. You know what I mean?
They say, like one thing Nick Wright said, Draymond gets that tech early and hopes that the ref doesn't want to in the game and won't give him a second one. But these recent refs, man, they've just been giving out texts like Chris Paul got a tech he told the ref he was acting like the police.
Well, Fred VanVleet tried to damn near he was trying to mush that ref and get up on him. You know what I'm saying? And then you saw the clip I sent you with Toronto's coach last night. Like that dude was peacocking around the court trying to peck the ref. Like, what the hell was going on? But
yeah, they that's the thing. That's part of the NBA's product, and it's like.
Just like baseball. You see the manager run out there?
They made one of these umps retire. Like, listen, man, you are not doing good. We have computer data that shows you are missing more calls than you should. So go ahead, take this severance package and sayonara. The NBA is like they're letting these guys run loose. And I think Adam Silver, David Stern would never.
Yeah.
David Stern's not going for this. Like Roger Goodell. They in the same city. Like the NBA headquarters and the NFL headquarters, like the same block.
Did you see that Philly the other night against the Spurs where
she said
he flopped and she ejected Andre Drummond and then went over to the bench and told Nick Nurse like, "Hey, I fucked up," and brought him back. Like I ain't never seen that before.
But the problem,
but at least she took accountability and was like, "No."
All these reviews, you need an independent arbitrator third body to make some of these review calls. Because, like, for instance, remember that year the NFL tried the pass interference review and coaches were allowed that? And I'm like, they're never going to reverse that call because in slow motion, it's going to look like pass interference.
Right.
The DB is grabbing the wide receiver every time, like every single route, unless he's completely beat.
Especially if his last name is Gardner,
Sanders,
Terrell, all of them. So they need Mr. Logical. That's what they need.
Anybody that's close is going to be grabbing. So the call stands. Same thing with the foul challenge. Because I think LeBron walked over. I remember it was a couple years back when he still was wearing 6. He walked over to whoever was doing the broadcast. I think it was like Reggie Miller or somebody, and. It was literally, it wasn't a foul. It was no foul at all. Like the jumper was here, the defender's hand was here, no contact anywhere. And LeBron walked over and was like, listen, and he said to Reggie, like, they're not gonna reverse the call. He's like, that means they would have to admit that they were wrong. He's like, they're not gonna reverse this call. And everyone's looking at the play. It was like, there was no contact. I think it was like Kawhi did like something like this, like crazy after he let the ball go. No one touched him. They were like, foul stands, 2 free throws, because they're not gonna check themselves in the heat of that moment. Like, if I was a ref, I'm like, yo, chill out,
right?
Like, stop giving these guys text. They didn't come here to see us. Like 100%. They came here to see these people play basketball. Like, let them cuss each other out. These are grown men. Let them battle out. If they say something disrespectful to you, about you, if they say you fucked up a call, it's a possibility that you fucked up a call.
Right.
Ride with it. See, like
100%.
you're not even paying attention. Mike just had to. He wasn't even involved in the play call. He just said it wasn't going to change. The other guy flopped. His name was Kawhi. So, holla at your boy.
All right. Well, I got SportsIllustrated.com pulled up here. We're going to talk about some clinching scenarios that can happen this weekend. But before I do that, Mr. Logical, here's a question for you. Does the NFC representative in the Super Bowl come from the NFC North?
Yes. I picked Detroit preseason. I like what Minnesota's doing. And I think Green Bay is one of the hotter teams. Like I said, I like how Jordan Love's commanding the offense there. So if it doesn't happen, that means they fucked up. Like they
for lack of better words.
Yeah, like something didn't go right, because if you think about potentially either Tampa Bay or Atlanta, the Commanders and the Eagles. So any NFC
no disrespect
North team,
to the Rams, y'all.
Oh, and the Rams. The only team that I could see that should be able to beat any of the NFC North teams is Philly. So it depends on how it
podcast. Ooh.
So however it plays out, so at the end of the season, who gets the 1 through 4 seed and who gets 5, 6, and 7.
Yeah, so let's talk about that. Yeah, that's the segue right there. So, of course, this weekend is week 17, which means there's 1 week left in the regular season after this week. So we're going to just take it in the order of this website because I ain't going to be scrolling up and down. So tomorrow, Denver is going to the Queen City, or one of the Queen Cities, because I hear people call Charlotte and Cincinnati the Queen City. But, I digress. But Denver tomorrow, with a win, is in. Even a tie gets them in. So it's on the line tomorrow. Cincinnati, on the other hand, it's not that simple, because not only do they need to win, they need to win next week at Pittsburgh, and they need some help from Miami and Indianapolis to lose a game as well. Kansas City has locked up the 1 seed. Buffalo this weekend can lock up the 2 with the win over if they beat the Jets, or if Baltimore loses, or I'm sorry, if Baltimore loses next week, because right now they have a 2-game lead on Baltimore. So if they lose to the Jets this weekend, they would have to win next weekend, or else Baltimore could pass them for the number 2. Wouldn't that be something? Then you got the Chargers.
That would influence the MVP vote.
It would. Then you got the Chargers. They're going up to Foxborough tomorrow. Guess what? In with a win, or a tie, or these pop-ups are getting on my nerves, or my Dolphin and Colt loss. So then you go over to the NFC. The Atlanta Falcons, they can clinch this weekend. They ain't. We'll get to that in a minute. They ain't. But the Falcons could. But the Falcons could clinch the NFC South this weekend with a win and a Tampa Bay loss to Carolina. If they both win out, Atlanta still has the tiebreaker. So Tampa needs Atlanta to lose at least once. And they will. We'll get to that in a minute. Detroit, with a win and a Minnesota loss this weekend, clinches the North. But if Detroit loses, or I guess it don't really matter, but if Minnesota wins, we set up week 18. Winner take all in the North. Minnesota and Detroit. Of course, Minnesota on that league-leading 8-game winning streak right now. They got the pack coming in this weekend. So beware, Vikings. And then the Rams, Seattle won last night. So this is the weird tiebreaker that is just nuts. So if the Rams win and three of Buffalo, Cincinnati, Cleveland, Minnesota, 49ers, and Washington win or tie, the Rams clinch the West. But if not, they play each other next week. And then there's like a 9-team thing that I can't even explain.
It must be like a common opponent win percentage against
Something, yeah.
Yeah.
Philly with a win this weekend clinches the NFC East. If not, and Washington wins this weekend, which they will, we'll get to that in a minute. If that happens, then Washington can clinch or potentially win the NFC East next week. So no Jalen Hurts, by the way. So, all bets are off.
With the glove.
All bets are off. So there you go. Those are your clinching scenarios for this week. Let's see what we got here. Josh, what up? You know what I'm saying? Real Sports 365 in the house. I knew he was going to throw the LeBron thing in there. I knew it was coming. But yeah, the NFL is the king of the town. That's just the way it goes. But so let's take it from the top, Mr. Logical. Foxborough is the scene.
If they didn't have LeBron in that game.
Foxborough is the scene. Can the Patriots prevent the Chargers from making the playoffs?
Nah, I don't think so. I just don't think that the New England has enough playmakers. I like Drake May. Like I said, there's going to be a lot of comparisons and talk about him and Justin Herbert and, like their size and everything else. I just don't think – I know defense – solid and they can make things happen, but you're playing against Jim Harbaugh. He's going to be conservative. Most defenses can change a game against teams that kind of air it out. But teams that play ball control, run blocking, extra blockers, short, quick passes, you don't give a lot of room for mistakes.
Saquon is my MVP.
If they don't fumble the ball, Herbert's not going to put it in harm's way. I think he still has less than 4 or 5 interceptions on the season as of right now. So without that, them trying to air the ball out and making mistakes and short drives, I think just the ball control offense for the Chargers gets them to win. It won't be pretty. It won't be a blowout, but it'll be something like 23-13. 23-16, something like that, where they're just holding the ball and New England's frantically trying to score when they get their opportunities after these 3, 4, 5-minute drives that the Chargers put up.
All right. Well, using ESPN, the Chargers are favored by 4.5, over under 42.5. And I got to straighten you out because you seem to have forgotten. The Patriots haven't given up yet. They went up 14-0 on Buffalo last week. They got some fight in them. They got some spunk. And when you're a team like the Chargers,
but Buffalo throws the ball around. Buffalo has short drives because you throw on first down, you run on second down, you throw on third down. Now you're putting the ball back New England. The Chargers aren't going to do that. The Chargers are
right, and that's the problem is that the Chargers play so conservative, as you said, that they're going to keep their opponents in the game. That there is potentially a J.K. Dobbins sighting this weekend. They opened up his 21-day window. I doubt he'll play, but they did open up his 21-day window. I'm picking the Chargers just because of Harbaugh, honestly. This is just one of those games where he's teaching this team how to win. Well, he's trying to teach this team how to win. They're young. They don't know how to win.
How to close out a game.
Yeah, he's going to set the tone.
Season and how to roll into the playoffs. Because
here come the blasphemy. Here it comes. You know what I'm saying? There is a hater amongst us. You know what I'm saying? James Cook about to lose his job to Ray Davis. He don't watch his back. You know what I'm saying? But, I got the Chargers. But let's go to the Queen City we were talking about. Same thing. Denver winning in. Joe Burrow leading that offense. Mr.
Denver top 5 defense, only giving up 18.7 points a game or something like that. But Joe Burrow and Jamar Chase out of this world, and if T Higgins' hamstring is good to go, I think I'm gonna go high powered offense beats defense because Chase is gonna get open. They're gonna
Oh, yeah.
score. They're gonna score a couple points and a couple touchdowns of bunches, and it's gonna cause Denver to have to maybe expand the playbook a little bit more, and that opens you up to mistakes. So I think Cincinnati puts pressure on. I have them going up like maybe 10-0 early in the second quarter, and it's like, okay, we got to get a drive going, and then they're throwing the ball around, and that's how. I know Cincinnati's defense isn't good, but you got a rookie quarterback. I think he's more likely to make the mistake that's going to impact the game.
Well, Jamar Chase is going to get circled and X'd out by PS2. That's what's going to happen this weekend.
Has anyone done that?
I'm not calling for a shutdown. I'm not saying he's going to hold him to 3 catches for 13 yards or anything like that.
8 catches, 116, and 2 touchdowns.
No, I'm thinking more like 6 catches for 78 yards. So this is the problem. So Denver likes to blitz. They have the highest blitz rate in the league. Joe Burrow just happens to be the best quarterback against the blitz this season. But we talked about that wind. That wind going to be howling. So
he grew up in Ohio. He plays his games in Ohio.
It's fine. It ain't even about that. It ain't even about that. It's just the weather becomes the equalizer. So Denver's defense is going to control the line of scrimmage. And to your point, Bo Nix has been in that Rookie of the Year conversation with Jaden Daniels. So this ain't Caleb Williams we're talking about here. This ain't Caleb football. We talking about Bo fucking Nix. Bo Nix is going to walk into the Queen City, and the Broncos are going to clinch a damn playoff berth.
And
Riley Moss is going to be back. So that
shout out to Green Bay, another white cornerback in an interception.
Yep, he's going to neutralize T. Higgins.
But he also wears long sleeves.
But to your point, they do have a rookie quarterback. They also have the 6th best offense in the league. So this ain't Jim Harbaugh with the conservative offense. I know you don't like Sean Payton, but I expect to see some tricks up his sleeve this weekend. Cortland Sutton is the receiver that's going to have the game that you think Jamar Chase is going to have.
I like that we disagree here.
You know what I'm saying? I'm just saying.
I'm a little biased.
I'm just saying.
I'm not a Peyton guy. But yeah, I'm a believe. Look, listen, Joe Burrow. I mean, hell, if they make the playoffs, then I think he should get votes for MVP.
He should. He absolutely should.
Because he's
I would honestly say he should win it, to be honest with you.
39 touchdowns, 4,200 yards.
I would honestly say he should win it. The only problem is, though, it would have been nice if they would have beat the Ravens, at least once. But the other thing about that, by the way, Mr. Logical, Cincinnati doesn't have a win against a team with a winning record this season.
Yeah, but in those games, okay,
they lost. Whatever you're about to say, finish it with they lost.
Joe Burrow in their losses. He had one bad loss, or one bad game in the loss. 56% completion percentage.
Don't be trying to do this SEC thing with me.
356. I'm just talking about like his performance. So in their losses, he was 73% passing, 56, 60, 70, 77, 77, 64, and 73. That was his completion percentage in those games. 2 touchdowns, 3 touchdowns, Lima. Yeah, so 4 touchdowns in a game where they went for 2. I
think he should get MVP votes. I would honestly say they
have to make the playoffs because
they have to make the playoffs.
He would have to overcome, like I said, a bottom tier defense that has shown in games where he's had some of the biggest games of the year. Like He threw 5 touchdowns in a game and
Well, they lost
lost.
to Baltimore the first time because the kicker missed a field goal in overtime. They lost the second time because of a non-pass interference that was called on the 2-point conversion. You know what I mean? So, I mean, like, anyway, SoFi Stadium, you got the Cardinals coming in earlier this season. That's the energy I like. You know what I'm saying?
Man.
The Cardinals had a 41-14 win over the Rams in week 2, back when the Rams didn't have any weapons. The Rams, since their bye week, they were 1-4. They've won 8 of their last 10. Cardinals trending the other way, losing 4 out of 5. So, Mr. Logical, I know, we were joking around last year. Bryce Young with the 11 touchdown passes. He's only got 10 right now. Of course, he was benched for a few games. But how does Kyler Murray have a 1,000-yard rusher in James Conner, even though he's hurt now? He has Trey McBride, who's probably at least the second best tight end in the NFL, third best tight end in the NFL. They got Marvin Harrison Jr., the big rookie pickup. They got my namesake, Michael Wilson, out there. How this man only got 16 touchdowns and averaging 219 yards per game?
Because you don't watch film.
That's why they're going to get their ass kicked this weekend.
Yeah, you don't watch film. There's no way you're as talented as you are. And like I said, the track record that he has for just being a winner, and you get to the NFL and you look so unimpressive. But like I said, in high school, he could just go off of instincts, speed,
the game
talent.
came easy to him. But now
Oklahoma, same thing. Now you like I said, I brought this up before. It's not my job to get Marvin Harrison the ball. Like, it's exactly your job. Like, you're supposed to know these coverages, these routes, and tell him, if you break this route off here, like come back this way diagonally to the sideline, I can get the ball to you here. Like, you should see Tom Brady sit down on the sideline all the time to his players. Mahomes and Kelsey, you can see them doing like the hand signals. Like, yeah. And then, yeah. Got it. Okay, cool. Got it. Mm-hmm. Even I remember like what's the ball name? Tyler Lockett and Russell Wilson. Some of those throws is like, why did he throw that? But it's obviously a conversation to have. Like, listen, I'm getting to this back corner. Now, I'm throwing it to the back pylon. He's like, cool, I can get there. I can get both feet in. Because some of those catches and throws are incredible. But Kyler Murray, I just don't think he does that. I don't think he does that enough. I don't think he gets like I said, the tight end has all these catches and then
92 catches, no touchdowns.
It's like, yo, at some point in the red zone, you got to be like, yo, this play gets him open for a touchdown. But I don't think he knows.
And don't forget, Marvin Harrison did have his best game of the season against the Rams in that game, 130 yards in the first quarter, and then I don't know if that was the game where he got hurt, but he had 130 yards in the first quarter against them. So, I don't get him the ball. It is your job. So, of course,
if they can get out of his contract, they will.
So you got Sunday Night Football where the Falcons are going to flail. They're coming up to Landover, Maryland. The Michael Penix show and his energy is coming to Landover, Maryland to get some of this here commander. So this is the thing, right? I've been talking about how bad Washington's secondary is all year long.
Is it clear? Take it off.
And Mike Sanistro has come on, but the secondary still isn't very good. Now, the difference is with Atlanta, there's one player on that defense that scares me, and his name is Jesse Bates III.
And AJ Terrell, who's been the third least amount
this
year because he's been so good.
He don't scare me. You know why he don't get targeted? Because teams running it down Atlanta's throat. That's why he don't get targeted.
There's no pass rush.
You know what I'm saying? So Jaden Daniels.
There's no 300-pound guy up front.
So I want all of y'all out there to, go find out what Jaden Daniels' prop is for rushing yards this weekend and take that. He's going to get loose on the Falcons. The Falcons don't have a pass rush to speak of.
Good linebackers, they spy well. Linebackers that keep quarterbacks in the pocket. Like I said, they just don't rush the passer well because I know Chris Jones is a one-of-one talent, but I'm pretty sure there's guys in the draft that are 6'4", 310 pounds that
Probably
could have
all
been
play for
drafted.
Georgia.
They that you could have gotten just to eat up blocks in the middle, like your Vince Wilfork type of player. Granted, he, like people rave about him as far as his former teammates, but that kind of guy Atlanta just doesn't have. Grady Jarrett is incredible at what he does, but he is limited because he's only 6 feet tall.
Mm-hmm.
And he's limited, and he's coming off a couple of injuries, so he can't always be the guy that pushes the pocket up the middle. Every other guy they put in their defensive line, they're like 275, 280. These interior guards are 330, 325. Like, and they're just moving them around. So it's a tough matchup. It's gonna have to be Atlanta's going to have to keep the playbook simple. Get the ball to Mooney. They seem to have some rapport last week with the Giants. Sometimes the Giants can just give you fool's gold because
He's hitting those sideline throws.
you think your team is better than you are. Your passing game is better than you are, but it could be just a bunch of guys out there going half speed for the Giants.
I'm gonna take Dan Quinn over. I'm gonna take Dan Quinn against the rookie quarterback. The rookie quarterback making his second start. If this was Bo Nix, where he's been playing all year, I probably wouldn't feel that way.
Second start on the road is tough, but I give him
Sunday Night Lights.
Sunday Night Lights, age. I mean, he's 24, was 25.
They lying. He's 28. I seen his birth certificate. Sports Reports is ordered exclusive.
So that bodes well. That bodes even better. So rookie versus rookie. We'll see who can use their gifts. Because right now they can't lean on a lot of experience. I mean, Jaden has a few more, he has double-digit games, but that's still not a ton of experience. Right. So we'll see who comes out on top.
Yeah, I'm taking the
Commanders. Know I'm picking, so.
Yeah, you picking the Commanders too. So Green Bay going up to Minneapolis. The first time these two teams played, Jordan Love was coming off of an injury. Minnesota jumped out to a big lead. Green Bay came back. Minnesota held on for a 31-29 win. Should Matt LaFleur get some Coach of the Year consideration? Obviously, Kevin O'Connell should, so I didn't ask that one. But should Matt LaFleur? He won 2 games with Malik Willis, man.
a castaway at that. His second and third games at that. So it was like games you didn't think you were going to need him. And you went, yeah. I think he should. I think Kevin O'Connell should. I think Mike Tomlin should.
You about to get Mike riled up.
I think Sean Payton should. Dan Quinn should get some consideration. I like Sean McDermott and Buffalo. It's a lot of coaches. I mean, I guess you gotta
give Andy Reid some consideration.
Andy Reid. I was like Andy Reid, so I think the only thing that's going to impact Sean McDermott and because no one had them at 10 wins. It's not you can't find a preseason poll from September. They had them leading the division this late in the season before like this last few games. He had Justin Fields, a guy that was given away by Chicago, and Russell Wilson, who another team is paying him $38 million to not play for them. And he brought those two guys together and got 10 wins out of them. I mean, like, that's no one else is doing that.
Oh, come on, Mike. You know the answer to that one. That was Baltimore, ain't it?
You don't need a best win. This isn't college. You need wins. This is not the CFP. This is the NFL. And he went out there with 2 cast-off quarterbacks and got 10 wins. How many wins did Denver and Chicago get last year total? About 13?
Maybe.
13, 12,
maybe? Green Bay has scored 30 points in their last 5 games.
They played all their division games in the last half of their schedule. Come on, man. This is facts over feelings over here. Facts over feelings. Their division they played all their division games after week 9. Every single one of their division games have been in the latter half of the season. Nobody else's schedule was set up that way.
And they close with
played,
Cincinnati next week,
and they
too.
played 3 games in 10 days. Like, that's Kansas City's schedule.
So my key to this game. So my key to this game, right? I'm not
Mike
going
McCarthy not getting no votes.
I'm not going to do the thing where I'm not going to do the thing where I'm like, hey, whoever wins the turnover battle is going to win this game. I'm not going to do that. What I'm going to say is who scores early. Both teams are top 3 in first quarter points this season. So which team can get off to the hot start? The first time they played, it was Minnesota. Green Bay needs this win. They're 0-3 against Minnesota and Detroit this season. So, like I said, if Minnesota wins, winner take all next week against Detroit.
Yeah,
Jordan Love.
Bay, if we go to that best loss thing, I think Green Bay has the best losses because it's Philly, Minnesota.
I know that's what you want.
And Detroit.
Yeah. That's the thing, right? Like, Mike's still going on. Minnesota.
Oh, yeah, he's not getting coach of the year if I was the only one voting. He upset me so bad.
I like what Green Bay is doing right now. I think Jordan Love hasn't had an interception since week 11. Minnesota is obviously the hot team in the league, but Green Bay has that opportunistic defense that I've been talking about all season. So give me Green Bay by that much.
Yeah, I'll take the better quarterback making the 3rd down and 7 throw that keeps drives going, and that's Jordan Love. I think it's command of the offense. I like what Sam Darnold's doing this year. I think he's showing what good coaching looks like, and I think Kevin O'Connell's probably going to win Coach of the Year because
we didn't even say
quarterback play was. Yeah, that's a good one.
We didn't even say Dan Campbell
last year. Yeah, but I think Kevin O'Connell. I think he'll get a lot of votes because his star, his most important position player, quarterback, isn't a star.
Right.
Sean McDermott, star, has a star quarterback. John Harbaugh has a star quarterback. Andy Reid has a star quarterback. So I think even Jared Goff, in my opinion, is a star. I think Mike Tomlin will get consideration because he had mediocre quarterbacks. Like over the last couple of years, those guys haven't been top tier quarterbacks, and he paired them up with his defense.
The moon ball.
I think he'll get some votes, but like I said, it could just be fatigue with Mike Tomlin because he's at it so long. Andy Reid, the same thing. Even though they're 15-1, no one's gonna be like, "Look what a great job Andy Reid did with that team." It's Mahomes and Kelsey and Reid.
Mm-hmm.
And the defense and Spags. Like, we know all the assistant coaches' names with the Kansas City Chiefs, whereas Kevin O'Connell, I have no idea who like Brian Flores with the defense, Kevin O'Connell calls the plays. Those are only 2 coaches I know on the staff. Like, no one's running down a list of people who work all around the building like they did with Kansas City.
And then, what's that? Is that upset alert? Okay. Tampa Bay and Carolina.
I got Carolina just because I need it.
Tampa Bay and Carolina. Dallas punked Tampa all over the yard last week. I think that we're starting to see who Tampa is. Now, granted, they've had some injuries, so I don't want to just bag on them. But all year, I've been saying Tampa's defense isn't very good. Chris Godwin's gone. He's been gone for a while now. They just played Carolina 3 weeks ago and went to overtime with them. Now, granted, that game was at Carolina. Now, why Tampa Bay is favored by 7.5 here, I have no idea. In that game that they played a couple of weeks ago, would you be surprised if I told you that Bryce Young threw for more yards than Baker Mayfield did?
That's surprising.
Yeah, by 63 yards to be exact. I am starting Baker this weekend. You going down. You know what I'm saying? You're going down. But anyway, is Leggett going to play? That's going to be my only question for Carolina. But
oh man, I got some of that coon.
Yeah, get some of that coon. But I feel like every time I turn on a Tampa Bay game, they're committing a turnover. That's what it looks like lately for me.
They play a little loose. They play a little fun. I think they play with that Baker
Oh,
Mayfield
or should I start Tua? Anyway,
schoolyard kind of, that demeanor.
yeah.
And I think they're playing with house money. I think a lot of teams out here just like, you know what? I don't think we should have been in this position with the injuries and everything else. And they're in a division that's, their rival benched their starting quarterback. They're starting a rookie. They're probably thinking like, yeah, we take care of business with I think they got Carolina and then they
And
have
the
New
Saints.
Orleans.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I think they're looking like, yeah, we take care of business and we're good to go. Maybe
Hey, if they
somebody else
lose this
slips.
weekend, they're done.
Yeah, and maybe Washington slips a couple of games and they get in anyway. So it's a lot of scenarios where they could still potentially get in.
Who?
I think everything else is pretty much locked up. I think
Yeah.
everybody else is already at 10 wins and on the verge of getting 11 at least. If they don't already have 11 already between Philly, Minnesota, Green Bay, and Detroit all having double-digit wins already. They need somebody to falter. If it's not Atlanta, if it's Washington, but luckily they have Carolina and New Orleans as their two final games. So if you want to end the season on a good note and you
There you go.
need two
That's the
wins,
schedule to do it.
those are schedules. That's the schedule to have. So
Yeah. So I ain't trusting no Kenny One Glove. Give me the Cowboys.
since since number 11's been back, they've been a terror. Just like I said earlier, like we were talking about Dallas when Dak went out and they had all the injuries. People thought I was hating on. Like, no, it's like there's only so much an NFL team can do when stars at every level are hurt. Your offensive line best players are hurt. Your quarterback is hurt. You don't have a deep running back room. Your wide receiver was hurt. Your defensive end was hurt. Your other defensive end was hurt. Your stand-up outside linebacker plays defensive end was hurt. Your cornerback was out. The other corner
Mike
was out.
McCarthy was calling reverses on 4th and 1.
Mike McCarthy doesn't have a contract. The mood in the building was awful. So like it was only so much Dallas could do to where it was like it was easy to pick against them. But now you get a few guys back. They string a couple of wins together,
Well,
and
they shut down Sedarian though, so that's not good. But the first time Philly played them, it was Cooper Rush's first game. So obviously there was an adjustment to be had, and the Cowboys haven't really looked back since. They held Saquon to 66 yards in that first matchup. Granted, it was on 14 carries. They didn't necessarily need to run the ball that day. AJ Brown had it going on one of his few good games this year. So
I'm gonna take Philly. Philly
I'm
at home.
taking the Cowboys. I'm taking the Cowboys.
I think the record. I know Sirianni because he said he went over to Saquon early in the year and asked him like, "Hey, you're." I think he was like maybe like 12 yards away from either a personal best or maybe a Philly record, rushing record. And Sirianni asked him if he wanted to go back in, and Saquon was like, "Now let the other guys eat." So I think getting him as close as they can to that rushing record before
I'm
next
nervous
week.
though. I'm saying I just came back from New Orleans. I don't know if Eric Dickerson into voodoo or not, but it's on my mind now. He already said he don't want that man to break the record. That was the first time, besides Mercury Morris, I never really heard somebody be like, "Nah, I don't want him to do it."
Listen, I think the only old head that says something that I really love was Michael Irvin when he said, "Nah, don't retire 88." Because every time somebody wear it and they do well, they're going to talk about me. And if they wear it and they do poorly, they're going to talk about me. So either way, they talking about me. So keep handing it down, young fella.
Well,
keep playing good in it.
Well, I always say sports is poetry, right? Wouldn't it be fitting for Saquon to break the record against the Giants? Wouldn't it?
Hence why I said getting him as close as he can.
Yeah, he needs 268 yards.
Yeah.
He needs 268 to get it, Jets and Bills, I'm taking the Bills, but, Josh Allen, 154 yards last week. Bills, to Mike's point, he brought up the leader in sacks. The Bills have the least sacks in the league. So I think this game is going to be a lot closer than it should be because Aaron Rodgers should actually have time to throw the ball. Now, with that being said, the problem is the Jets aren't going to start. They're not going to stop Buffalo. And Buffalo's number 1 in the league in turnover margin. So give me the Bills. You know, I might take the Jets to cover. Let me see what the line is on that real quick. You know, but I got the Bills winning.
Makes sense. I got the Bills.
9.5 is the line. Woo, that's deep.
Josh Allen is like, we see this in every like sports generation. Josh Allen was probably leading MVP. I think Saquon had the buzz, and then I think he took the lead. And then now Lamar's last few games is just they just been so outstanding. He's had everything. He's had the throw with the celebration. He had the run, the interaction with the children. I mean, it's like Lamar's doing everything. He's doing like he's good at the podium. People are laughing and joking. He's doing everything right, and he's performing on the field. And his team just took over the division. So Josh Allen is about to literally have 13 seconds in real life. Like, I had this game wrapped up, and Mahomes came out 13 seconds, tied the game, and then won.
It's always Lamar's defense that puts him over the top, though. You remember last year against San Francisco, the 5-interception game, and he got the ball at the 40 over and over, and somehow he won the MVP. This week they held Houston to 2, and we're talking about like, oh, look at how great Lamar is. You know,
but his individual.
No, he's played well, but I'm just saying.
I'm not saying that. Listen, I think it's probably gonna be co-MVP, like Steve McNair and Peyton Manning, but it's just something about the spectacular way Lamar plays. I think Josh Allen plays, but Josh Allen plays a lot like a sledgehammer. Just his runs and his throws, like, you know, he plays.
He wears
very big, very tough. Yeah. Lamar plays just like this. How are you this much faster than the fastest people who play football in this country? Like, how are you jogging to the end zone from the 20 with a safety chasing you, running his heart out, and you jog from the 20 and still beat him by 5 yards to the end zone? So it's like that kind of thing. Like when it's the type of stuff that he does, like the touchdown he threw to Likely, when he was going back and forth, threw the ball, let it go, hand in here. It just has a little bit more flair to it, and then you see like the flair and like I said, in the interviews, the locker room.
Why are you acting like Derrick Henry not second in the league in rushing though? Like, you know what I mean? Like, I think Lamar Jackson is the MVP if it was today. You know what I mean? We'll see. You know, next week Baltimore closes with Cleveland. They're probably going to have to play so they can win the division. You know, Buffalo's got the Jets and the Patriots, so they both got chances to put up numbers to close out their case. But if it was today, I would say it's Lamar Jackson.
Yeah, and if somebody said, "Hey, for me, it's still Josh Allen because he's carrying the team of that. Not traditional, you know, like not your traditional powerhouse team that he had before." I'll give you that. But outside of Saquon, Lamar, Josh Allen, and if the Bengals make the playoffs, Joe Burrow, I don't want to hear any other names.
Nobody thought Derrick Henry was done. He was just on a bad team. You know what I mean? But having the second leading rusher does help.
Absolutely.
Regardless of what James Cook has done. Having a good
run game helps every single quarterback except for Kyler Murray.
Yeah, Zay Flowers is better than any receiver Buffalo has. You know, like what I said, Buffalo has the least sacks in the league. You know, the Ravens' front seven causes issues. Their secondary isn't very good, but neither is Buffalo's.
Yeah,
but neither is Buffalo.
They kept Kyle Hamilton back and say, "Hey, listen, we'll let these other linebackers do this tackling at the line of scrimmage. You stay back here and keep everything umbrellaed up, and we're good to go."
All right, so no, that was just running backs in general. That wasn't a Derrick Henry thing. That was a running back thing that they did to. Yes, Zay is better than Cooper, and by the way, he's only had Cooper for not even half the season. Like, Cooper wasn't on that team week 1. You know what I'm saying? Like, come on now. You got to tell the whole story, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth. You know what I'm saying? But rapid
Bill.
fire real quick, Mr. Logical, you know what I'm saying? Because none of these games really interest me. So just let me know where you disagree.
All right.
Dolphins over the Browns.
Got it.
Coin flip. I'm taking Tennessee over Jacksonville just because I feel like Jacksonville wants that number 1 pick.
Yeah, I think they want that number 1 pick.
Yeah. Colts over the Giants.
Yeah, we'll take that.
Raiders over the Saints because Antonio Pierce is too stubborn to lose.
You can't
Talk to
even lose to the
Telesco.
Saints. You have you can't lose to the Saints. They can't score.
Talk to Telesco, you know what I'm saying? And then closing it out, Monday Night Football. Sorry, 49ers, but you know, the Lions going to throw that final dirt on the grave. I mean, you're already out of the playoffs anyway, but
yeah,
throw that dirt on the grave.
Same thing. Like, there's only so much you can do when you listen.
He did beat Josh Allen, but you know what I'm saying? They don't play against each other. Like, this ain't the NBA where I can go, Kyrie shot 57% against Anthony Edwards, and Anthony Edwards only shot 39% against Kyrie or something like that. Like,
you know what I mean? It's a tapestry of 17 games.
It's a 17-game season. Head-to-head is for the playoffs, not for awards. You know what I'm saying? But speaking of which, bruh, these people are upset about this 12-team playoff. These people are upset. You know, all these blowouts, like, oh my goodness.
All the blowout memes stopped at the Tennessee loss, though. My timeline was flooded with SMU and Ole Miss would have done this.
Well, because Paul Feinbaum went to Tennessee. Why would he talk bad about it?
Alabama would have done this. And as soon as Tennessee go up to Columbus and get that ass waxed on TV, Brazilian style.
You know what's interesting to me, though?
All that stuff stopped. I haven't seen one. Alabama would have been better than Tennessee. Ole Miss would have done better than Tennessee. South Carolina would have done better than Tennessee. Post. I didn't see a single one.
Not a one. But hey, let me do this real quick. Here you go, Mike. Get your tapes ready. So as I was looking at these blowouts, right? So let me step back for a second because there's some things that need to be said here. So everybody killed Indiana for getting killed by Ohio State. But they lost by less than Tennessee did. You know, Boise lost to Oregon by less than what Penn State did. So all these talks about blowouts, right? So in this first round, the margin of victory was 19.3 points. I'm rounding up. It was 19.25. I'm rounding up. During the 14 playoff, 10 years worth of data. The first round's margin of victory was 17 points. We arguing about 2 points? That's not it. When you look at the national title games of the 14 playoff, you had such scores as 42-20, 44-16, 52-24, 33-18, your favorite, 65-7, and 34-13. So that's an average. Those games I just named, that's 60% of your 14 playoff national title games, average of 30.3 points. And I know that 58-point game stands out as the outlier, but still 30.3 points. But
Bama,
if I added,
hold on real quick. Clemson beat Bama like that. That was the 40.
Yeah, that was the 44-16. Yep.
And Bama is a top tier program. These kind of games happen.
They happen.
Predict it. And that's, I think everyone's been trying to be predictors and say, like, oh, this wouldn't happen. It's like you play the regular season game, you get qualified when you get enough wins. And then when you get enough wins, you can be put in the conversation. If you don't have enough wins, you're on the outside of the conversation and you need a little help. That's what happened this year with the 12-team playoff.
Right.
They picked 16 teams. They had 16 eligible teams. It's just that out of that 16, you only had 12 spots. Everybody can't go to the prom. There's only 12 tickets.
But even if I add the close national title games to that 4-team scenario and give you all 10 4-team national title games, the average score is 37.6 to 21.7, or an average of 15.9. So yeah, it brought it down, but it's still in line with what we saw last weekend, first of all. So with that being said, to take it a step further, let's just say the committee decided to go 1 through 12, forget conference affiliation, all that stuff, but just 1 through 12. This is the top 12. These are the teams that are in. So, but think about this too, Mr. Logical and Mike. This is where you got to think about it. The reason that the playoff is so fucked up right now is conference realignment. Because if we didn't have this big conference shift that we had, you would have Oregon right now as the Pac 12 champion. You know what I mean? And they're the only undefeated team in the country, by the way. You would have Texas as the Big 12 champion. So those would be your top 2 seeds, probably. You got Georgia as your SEC champion, Ohio State potentially as your Big 10 champion, maybe Penn State, whatever. Your 3,
or maybe even Indiana, depends on how the math out.
Right, but hold on, that's the thing.
Ohio State had 2 losses.
Right, hold on, I'm getting there, but that's the thing. Okay. Your 5 seed would probably be Miami, because we'll just call Miami the ACC champion in that scenario, because there's no SMU. So then your 6 through 12 would probably be Notre Dame, Penn State, Clemson, Ole Miss, Bama, South Carolina, Boise. So you get your 3 crybabies in that scenario if you ranked it like that. But with the conference realignment piece back to Indiana, that's why Indiana was in the playoff, because they didn't play Oregon during the regular season. They didn't play Penn State during the regular season.
Because there's 77 teams in the Big Ten.
Yeah, all they had to do was split Michigan and Ohio State, which they did. And even if they would have lost to Michigan, you still might have let them in.
10-2, nah. Not 10-2 Indiana. They had to be 11 wins. If 10-2 Bama, 10-2 Ole Miss, they get in. Like, we understand that there's caveats. The problem was all the people who were clamoring for the 3 SEC schools were trying to ignore or just kind of expound on the caveat. We understand that there is a little bit of leeway given the SEC schools because they do have their top teams are tougher than a lot of other conferences' top teams. There are other teams that are on par. Your Kentucky is on par with most of your ACC schools. Vanderbilt's on par with most of your Big 12 schools, but we get it. The top tier teams in the SEC, they get a little bit of a bump. They get like you're grading on a curve. Like, it's like when you take a college class in high school and you get an A in it, it's higher than a regular 4.0. We understand that. But they weren't that team. They were 9-3. If they were 10-2, I think you might be able to slide SMU out.
If all things created equal, if SMU's name was Miami and Indiana's name was Michigan, and those games played out the same way, we probably wouldn't be having the same amount of dialogue that we're having.
Michigan played Indiana's schedule, didn't play for a conference championship, but they were 11-1. They only lost Ohio State.
And they would have went to lose to Notre Dame. People would have just said, wow, we got Notre Dame and Michigan in a playoff game. Like, oh, that rivalry, the greatness of that rivalry, that doesn't really happen anymore because Notre Dame chickened out. But anyway, if that's the case, then why don't we just go back to opinions deciding the national title? Like, remember pre-BCS where teams would play in bowl games and not even play against each other?
At the end, saying who was the number 1 team.
I don't know if Miami should have been there, to be honest with you. You know what I mean? Like, I can't say that they can because I never saw Miami stop anybody. You know what I mean? Like, they won games, but I never saw them stop anybody.
Like I said, they had everybody's not.
All they had to do was beat Syracuse.
Everyone's not given the same grading criteria. Everyone's not getting the same rubric. Like, some people went to this professor, some people went to this professor, some people went to this professor. But at the end of the year, who's the salutatorian? Who's coming some lottie? This is what you got. Like, you did everything you got, but per the rubric
but follow the money.
Professor, this is what you got. At Alabama, you had an opportunity to go 10-2 because they would have played in the SEC championship game. I think even if they lose 10-3, Alabama still gets in.
Probably
because that means
they said Georgia was going to be in either way.
because they would have had the loss to Tennessee, and they would have had a loss to Vanderbilt, which it happens. A game like that happens, and then they would have been 10 wins if they would have dominated. If they would have beat Oklahoma the way we were expecting to beat them by whatever the spread
They
was,
would
that
be
they
in. It was
they would have
14
been
and a half.
14 and a half. If they won that game 31-13,
They're
it
in.
would have been a
No
no-brainer.
questions
They're
asked.
in.
If Ole
Oklahoma
Miss
on the
doesn't lose at
road.
home to Kentucky, scoring 17 points in that game, they're in the playoff.
They might have been able to bump Indiana out. A 10-2 Ole Miss you might have been able to pull Indiana out because you would have been able to
But
argue
see,
the schedule.
I sat here for 5 minutes and I came up with a better playoff than they did. Because in my playoff, with the conference realignment not happening, you'd have had your buys. Oregon, Texas, Georgia, Ohio State would have been your buys. Versus now, people are complaining because Boise and Arizona State get a bye because the auto bids, and people don't like the auto bids. The only reason people don't like the auto bids is because that means less SEC teams.
Yeah,
that's the only reason people don't like it. What other sport do you win your divisional conference and you don't get to play in the playoff or get a chance at the championship? No other sport. Now, with NIL and the transfer portal here, this year could be an anomaly. You can't change the rules every time you don't get the result that you want. Because that's what's going to happen, right? They're going to go to 14. They're going to pull auto bids. They're already talking about the SEC and the Big Ten politicking to get 4 each automatically. So instead of conference champions getting automatic bids, you're trying to give automatic bids to 2 conferences.
Which is unnecessary. Because, like, I heard someone talking this week. It's like, if you didn't like how the season ended up, and you were like, you know what, these 3 teams should have been in, and it's like, well, one team lost to the 2 other teams out of their 3 losses, so you can't jump them in. The other team lost to 2 teams that they were favored by a total of like 30-something points. How are you going to put them in? It's like you got the results at the end of the year. Everybody wasn't going to get in, but you can't just ignore that the threshold was double-digit wins. Like, right. That's the bare minimum. Everyone knew that. You weren't going to go 8-4. It used to be like that with the Heisman. Winning the Heisman meant your team was either undefeated, 1 loss, until I believe Tebow had like an outstanding season. They were like 8-4 or something.
Johnny Manziel, I think, had 2 or 3
losses. Two losses or something like that. Yes. But just the year was outstanding. They were like, okay, we understand. Robert Griffin III, same thing. Outstanding year. Only like 9 wins or something like that.
Yeah, they were 9-4 that year. Yeah.
Yeah. We understand that there's caveat. There's like.
But that's why I brought up earlier this year when we were doing our college football preview. That's why I brought up maybe we need to take a page out of the college basketball book and have a challenge, have these challenges, ACC Big Ten challenge or SEC, Big 12 challenge or whatever. Because there's no way, like, you're always going to give the SEC benefit of the doubt. So there's no way for anybody
4 automatic bigs, then your preseason schedule can have, I'm going again, Mercer, some school from San Antonio, and some school from Northern Alabama that you pay $4 million to come practice at your facility in front of the fans, essentially.
Right.
It's like everybody, they need to sit down like you did all this conference realignment. We got it. Because what's going to happen is this. If you want Texas to play a tougher schedule, and Texas can't be the only SEC schools playing all the other tough SEC schools. Like Texas this year, you got to go LSU, Georgia, Alabama, Auburn, back to back.
Well, that's pretty much what Georgia did.
But it shapes up that way. But you can't mandate that within conference because you can't do it for everybody. What you can do is say, hey, Big 10, Big 12, SEC, ACC, if you want to get the lead, you got to play another one of these tough out of conference games week 1. So Georgia, Clemson, that was perfect. Texas, you might have to go Texas, Ohio State week 1, or Penn State, you might have to play SMU week 1, or just something along those lines. You're going to have to schedule one of the other conference's top 4 schools in your first 4 weeks. Either the first week, which is probably the best time to do it, you get your win or your loss out of the way early, because if you get the win early, it catapults you up the rankings. And if you get the loss early, it's like, you know what? It's Penn State playing against Georgia in Atlanta. We get it. And then you'll be able to, like, that'll be your best loss, and you get to make your way back up through your regular schedule. Because no one can say, "Oh, you didn't play a tough schedule." Yeah, I did. Played Georgia week 1, August 31st.
And you know what the closest
Georgia.
You know what the closest game of the first round was? Lowly Clemson at Texas. You know what I mean? So it's like, how do you determine, without playing it on the field, how do you determine who deserves to be in? And you can't look at the results after the fact and say, well, that team shouldn't have been in because they lost, or, you know, whatever the case may be. Because, like, we could do that every year,
especially with with Ole Miss and Bama, because they had such bad losses. There's nothing you can really hold your head on and say they definitely would have beat Penn State. It's like, yo, their 2 of their 3 losses were pretty bad.
And that's where the argument gets hypocritical, right? Because the argument for South Carolina was, look at how they're playing now. You know what I mean? But Bama beat Georgia back when Georgia was at the height of their powers. You know what I mean? But I'm not counting that to elevate Bama. And, oh, by the way, Bama beat South Carolina. So within your own conversation, you don't make
You're
sense.
eliminated.
You're not loyal to your logic because your logic ain't loyal to you. And that's where, you know, it's nerve-wracking, because even people like
essentially they wanted 5 SEC schools in. They wanted
that's what
Texas,
it sounds like.
Georgia, Ole Miss. I told you they were going to try to get
and it doesn't help. But think about it, though. It doesn't help, right? Because you got the College Football Playoff Committee. The show every week is on what channel?
I mean, it's ESPN.
ESPN got a contract with what conference?
They got the ACC
and the SEC,
and the SEC,
and then you got Kirk Herbstreit out here. You know what I mean? Like carrying the water, basically. And you know, and of course, you know, he had this little beef with Shannon Sharp or whatever. You know, because
I like to see that fight.
You know what I mean? But that's where college football has got it wrong. It is so mind-numbing, because college football is such a great sport. The passion, the pageantry, you know, the rivalries, the fan interactions, and all that stuff that come with it. But the powers that be can't get it right.
People, mainly like Lane Kiffin, you can't talk about how tough your hood is, and then when somebody wants to fight you, he's like, I ain't here for that. Like, listen, you can't talk about how tough, we would have done this, we would have done that. Like, well, you had the opportunity to win your games. And all you've been doing is whining ever since you didn't get in, as if you did not deserve to get in. Like, you deserve to be left out of the 12. And that's the part that bothers me. Like, that's the thing that bothers me. Like, per your performance on the field, you deserve to be left out of the 12.
Right.
Nothing about what you did says, I'm definitively a championship contending team.
And that's the thing. It doesn't matter what I think.
Conference.
It doesn't matter what I think, because I think that Ole Miss probably could beat half the teams in the playoff. But
I don't think so.
But you lost.
I didn't like the way their quarterback
played. Arizona State or Boise, for all I know.
I don't like the way their coach reacts when things don't go his way. I've always questioned his maturity. I think his swag is hilarious, but I question it very akin to Nick Sirianni. It's like, you should be done tweeting by now. Nick Saban did his pleading on TV. Hey, we lost 2 games on last-second field goals. I don't see why we can't get in.
Yeah, my man said who would be favored, you know?
And that was it. And that's all he said. He didn't go tweet every single week to the point where people have to reply to him like, yo, if you tweeted as good as you, if you coached as good as you tweeted, your team would have been in. Like,
if you see that Ohio State is favored
against Oregon?
Yeah.
Maybe they feel like the bye week hurt Oregon, or like the shenanigans at the end of the game when their first matchup.
Well,
Maybe they feel like
if
if
we were
they had
talking
those
about it,
7 seconds back, they'd be able to get a field goal off.
and we were talking about it off air. How would you like to beat Oregon? You get your first game against Ohio State, who had a tune-up game or whatever you want to call it. Then, if you win, you're most likely playing Texas down at Jerry World. Like,
I think giving up 37 points to Penn State in the championship game is probably why that Ohio State's favorite. And the game's in California, so it's not like, Ohio State fans are everywhere.
Yeah, Ohio State's a Rose Bowl staple. You know what I mean?
Yeah. So
I saw Texas. They're the big favorite this week. 13.5 over Arizona State. Penn State favored by 11.5 over Boise. So I'm really interested in that game. We'll get to the previews on Monday, but
Cam Scatterboo's going up your draft board after this game.
I hope so. If God willing, you know what I mean. And then you got what game did I forget? Oh, the Oregon Ohio State. Ohio State's favorite by 2 at the Rose Bowl. So we'll see. But we'll be back
on Monday.
On Monday, not Tuesday. We'll be back on Monday so we can do our preview of the quarterfinals of the college football playoff. We'll have some NFL reaction and all that good stuff for you. Have some NBA for you. If you could find NBA games, that is, without League Pass and whatnot. But he is the world famous, one and only, Mr. Logical. And he implores you to not bring feelings to fact fights.
Don't do it.
You know what I'm saying? And I am 2-5, a.k.a. the Aggie Daddy. Watching the Aggies right now, actually, against USC. Let's see, the kick is up. He missed it, so we're about to be 7-7 at halftime. Texas A&M, USC in the Las Vegas Bowl. See ya. Enjoy your football this weekend. We love you. Like, review, subscribe, share, rate. Do all the free things. And do me a favor and do those good things. Peace.